but it is latest unboxing I think I've ever done. But this came in tonight, a little late, but I was out doing other things. So here it is, right? Test just did another shootout video, putting this reel up against the reel that I traded, BrewTankOutdoors, for this reel. And Eugene's just commenting in the comments on that video about wanting to sell me 2 more of these reels. And I really don't know if I even want this one, Eugene. Tell you the truth, I didn't want the Aldebaran 22. I'll be very honest with you guys. I probably would just as soon have kept the, if it was cast quieter. I do agree that the newest Aldebaran is a casting machine as far as how quiet it is, but I hate the overall redesign of that reel. I like the older designed reel better as far as aesthetics, feel. Just the only downside to that external look and feel of that reel was how hard it was to adjust the brakes for the magnetic brakes on it. Other than that, I prefer that reel over the 22. The 22 definitely casts better. I have yet to make myself like any of these Alpha variant reels. I've had the Alpha's Air, I've had the Silver Creek. I also had just the Airstream Custom, which is the older Alphas frame, and I've owned a bunch of Alphas over the years, the older style one, but that the last reel they made in that older Alphas frame was the best they've ever made. That reel just, if it would have had a little more spool capacity, like you have to run real thin line on it. So it's almost kind of like a one-trick pony also, which so far the other Alphas I've tried are. So anyway, we come to this one that I just didn't want the Aldebaran anymore. I listed it for sale. None of you guys, nobody jumped on it. So it almost makes me think that, well, either none of my subscribers or just people in general aren't really enthused with that reel, even though it's an awesome casting reel. I think they're kind of like me. They don't like the overall look and shape. And what did you wrap this thing up in? Oh my God. He's got a full-on trash bag. So we got some free baits in here, and I'll tell you a kind of a funny story. I find it funny. BrewTank probably don't find it funny. If you guys remember right, BrewTank comments all the time about how I should give away, we'll let the maid take care of that, I should give away some of the jackhammers, right, in the giveaway. So, and then he mentioned like I could put a jackhammer or 2 in the reel I was shipping him. Well, I gave him a chatterbait, and I think at first he thought it was a jackhammer. If you guys remember right, the old Picasso bait that me and Matt were out fishing, I found that Picasso with that crazy elephant-looking trailer. Well, it still works good. I actually sharpened it. Probably needs maybe a resharpen a little better, but it will catch fish. I've caught a fish on it. I put that in the box and sent it to him. At first, I think he thought it was a jackhammer, but no, it's just an old Picasso that I found. So anyway, he sent me something here. Let's take a look at this. Threw in a couple high-end JDM lures for my next giveaway. Those are giant trout magnets. Crappie magnets. I don't know what we'll do with those. We don't give nothing away here anymore at Bass and Bonsai, right? No more giveaways. So anyway, let's take a look at this reel. And let's see if I can make myself re-like this reel. Or this frame, this variant. So, now I did ship Aldebaran. I left the single lifestyle handle on it. He'd asked me to do that and then sent the stock one with it. So I can already tell you that as far as looks, yeah, this reel looks way better than the Aldebaran. What will I do with this reel? Well, I'll probably put it on the Teton 661. I'm going to see how much line, and you know what, give me 1 minute. Oh, those are my knees. Give me 1 minute, I'm getting old. And that's also something I'll talk about real quick. While I'm thinking of it, we are 1 week away, this is Wednesday, we are 1 week away for my birthday. December 21st, I will be 51 years old. So what may be the best as far as what I recommend to guys to get even over these reels? Now, if you can afford it and you just want a little higher quality, not necessarily higher performing reel, but higher quality and will last longer, then yeah, go ahead and stick to some of the JDM or the aluminum framed BFS reels. They're awesome reels. They work good. But if you're like me and you're kind of budget minded, even though you technically don't have to be on a budget, but it's hard to justify spending that much money and then using some of these just for little specific things, where you can just get one of these for about $55 right now. Actually, I have two I probably ought to just resell. I just bought them because they're so cheap, but I don't even have a use for them right now. But what I wanted to do, because I hate reading on the side of the boxes on what the line capacities are and all that kind of stuff. Plus, I need to take this reel off of here anyway. So give me a minute. We're going to do something on this unboxing as we talk about reels in general and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I know my little comment I made on that other live stream, that was trying to get some of you guys a little riled up. There's nothing wrong with getting some of you guys riled up, right? So let me take that off. And this goes real good. I mean, this is a very nice combo. If you guys remember right, my personal best bass was caught on this rod with the PW100 with the purple spool. I think it was purple spool. Maybe it was a regular spool. I can't remember which PW100. Maybe it was just a regular spooled one. But I rewatched today the reel test, and all his BFS reels. If you guys haven't watched that video, I recommend to go watch it, because he does still own, like, he buys stuff and just keeps it, right? I know. Why does people do that? He's a hoarder. He's hoarding all of the good reels you guys could be buying used on eBay. And I'm going to talk about a few different things you can buy used on eBay. Well, you can almost buy everything used on eBay. But anyway, this is a very good, lightweight. I balanced this rod already, so almost any reel fits on it, feels real good. So we're going to just see what we think. And I call this, affectionately now, the Geico pigeon, right? Gekkabijin, whatever, however you pronounce it, Geico pigeon, like the Geico, like the Geico lizard, right? For the gecko lizard for the Geico commercials. Anyway, I know what I'm trying to say. No, I haven't been drinking at all. Diet Coke, that's it. It definitely goes real good with this. You know, you've got some of the red, just black. Almost, I'll be honest, almost feels like it was made for it. Palms real well. It palms a touch smaller than this reel, but not, I don't know. I call them almost even. The only reel that palms better than this is the Corrado, in my opinion. These are close, but they're a little sharper edges. You can feel that if you're as, I guess, nitpicky as I am about things. Same frames, a little bit, the cosmetics, this is a smoother reel, therefore I can feel it. It palms a little better than the other variants. It's the only variant so far, it and the Genius, which are smooth. The Black Knight 2, the Acuras, and the Micro Monsters are all that squared off frame like the original Black Knight 2. I like the palming better than the, probably both Aldebarans. The new Aldebaran palms pretty good also, but the older one, it got a little more squared up here, kind of like this reel. But the Alphas variants, they do palm a little better than the old school Alphas, in my opinion. They set a little lower, they palm, they feel a little better. But it's almost like this, they made it sharp, pointed, and it's hard to, for me, I've got bigger hands, which I like the feel of the smaller reel because it feels like I'm holding the whole thing solidly real good. But up here, your thumb gets lost at where to set, which would probably be like right here. To where all of these shaped like this, for whatever reason, it's just like there's a perfect, you don't even try to, it goes right there. It's like right there, and it's a more solid feel. Kind of the reason I like these, they're like right in the center. You can just, it's a better feel. It's hard to explain. and this a little bit smoother is even a better feel than this, which I'll grab this one right here, which still feels good because it's kind of the shape, but then it has this little cutout thing that it's not horrible. I mean, I'm getting real nitpicky on it, but this one does feel a little bit better. All the Alphas variants I've had so far, because I want to put my thumb there, but you will start, it's right on the point of it, and I always end up drifting off to the side, so probably right about there. But then you can also, when you're reeling, you can feel that. You see that T-wing? You can feel that hitting your thumb. If it's something is a huge deal, it's not a big deal at all. It's just if you're like me and you end up fishing, you'll be grabbing and you feel it, and then you find yourself readjusting your hand. And it's one of those things that if you're thinking about something hitting your thumb or doing something on your reel, it's taking your mind off fishing, right? Off of what you should be concentrating on. Oh, is that a hit, or whatever. So it's hard to, I don't know. I guess I'm just going to try to fish this one, see if I can make myself like it. I've got the Salamandura coming for the Big Sexy, and so I figured I'd, BrewTank threw it out there probably for a week or so that he'd trade me the Gekkabijin for the Aldebaran that I had, and so I'm like, well, heck with it, let's just trade, even up. But shipping was ridiculous. I think he paid 16 and I paid $16 to ship. It's insane how much. I used to think it was bad when it was 20 or 25 or whatever it used to be for like a fishing rod. I was like, God, that's crazy to ship a rod. Now rods are like insane, and reels used to be 5 to maybe 8 tops, like insuring them for $300 or something were up there. It's still under $10 now. It's just insane, the cost of everything nowadays, right? So anyway, let's take a good look. If you guys haven't watched everybody and their brother from Jimmy at Roar Fishing, the Reel Test, Hobie One Kenobi have done multiple videos on this reel probably a year ago, so I'm not going to go into detail of talking about what it weighs, what it doesn't weigh, what the spool does and doesn't hold. The only thing I am going to do, just out of my curiosity, and maybe some of you are kind of curious too, even if it's hard to get your head around numbers on what they say and do. I'm just going to see if it'll hold as much line as a Dark Wolf Ultra. And that's the only concern I have. It does come with and if you guys have seen, T-wing system, drag clicker, has less braking than the other variants for saltwater, basically, and more saltwater corrosive resistant. That's the main difference, right? The inductor or the rotor part doesn't come out. I think it doesn't come out as far. Maybe it's got a stiffer spring too. I haven't even checked into that, but so it should get a little more, I guess, distance with ease of casting anyway, for sure. It should be able to not cast it as hard and get more distance. But we'll find out. I am going to do a couple test casting videos. Even if I decide I don't like this reel and I want to get rid of it, we will put it up against probably this reel right here and just see what we can. And what I want to do, because I don't even think I ever did it, I want to get hold of this line first off, but I want to put it up against this reel, but I want to put this reel because I don't think I put it up against one of the shallow spools that come on these dual spool reels. I don't think I did that. They should be close in every way except for this is a different, it's not dynamic anymore, but it's still up and inside the spool, and these are on the outside like the standard mag track. So I probably need to hurry up and get a video out. Take this reel, and I'm getting ready to put new line on these also, but that part don't matter because these are deep spools. I'll dig out one of the shallow spools. I'll probably just do it on the one that I fished the most. It's already been used the most. 7-to-1 gear ratio. My chatterbait reel and try them on, basically the wide range of what you'll do. We may throw a trout magnet. We'll definitely throw that 1.5 or 7 gram the jelly bean up to probably like a 6 gram bait and just do a little shootout video. But right now, while I'm trying to talk and do stuff. And will you hold still? All I want to do is get a little bit of that line. Oh my God, that P-line original. Who recommended this line to me? Oh wait, I did it to myself. And I cannot remember who recommended me this line. And I don't think it's going to hold near as much as this reel, but we'll just see how close we can get. That's already full. So yeah, I can already tell you it's already probably over full. I will not like that spool. So I've got options. I think they also, you guys comment, you guys probably even know more about these reels than me. I want to say that they make a different spool for this to put a bigger line on it. And I don't know if you can take those spacers out and put, like, if I could put one of those gold SV spools out of a Salamander in this reel. If I could source one of those within a reasonable price. Or if I just want to sell this reel. I don't know what I'm going to do with this reel yet. I just traded for it because I did not want the Aldebaran anymore. And my main gripe on the Aldebaran was it was the XG, the high speed on it. I just felt it was way too high a speed for everything I tried to do with that reel. I just overall, that reel, I wasn't as happy out fishing it. Cast testing, I loved it. It beat everything else, but actual true out on the water fishing it, I just wasn't happy with that reel. So this one, I do have some 6-pound braid somewhere. This is 10-pound braid, and you cannot put that much 10-pound braid on this reel. I know it's but it's for saltwater. Maybe it's designed, is it designed for 4 or 6-pound braid? I don't know. It definitely isn't holding a lot of braid. I wrapped like a couple wraps of which is P-line original 10-pound test, but that still wouldn't, because I feel this is limited. Like I can cast everything I want to cast BFS, but I could also cast heavier baits, but then I'm limited to how much line this will actually hold of 10-pound test. I can spool it real easy once I get up to a certain weight of baits. So the fact that this little Gekkabijin didn't hold near as much as what, I did this wrong because I should have put it through the deal, but that part don't matter. We're going to level wind it ourselves, right? Just follow roughly the guide of just to get it close. All right, well, I don't know what I'm going to do with this reel. Charles, you want to buy this reel? You better speak up. I don't even know if these are selling for now. I haven't even looked at it. I guess BrewTank hasn't ran it down the gravel road, dragging it behind the truck. Looks good. I don't see any scratches. Looks as good as what the Aldebaran looked anyway. I kind of like everything about these reels. The air, the Silver Creek, and this one. Everything about the reel except for the spool. So I probably like the Salamandura. I would probably like that reel once it comes in and I can put, because it's going to get thicker line, and I'll see if it'll hold enough. If it doesn't, then maybe it'll go on this Teton because the Teton's kind of it's right on the verge of power BFS. right? I mean, I throw shaky heads and different stuff, so I could also, you know, the SV spool will throw what I normally am out throwing with this Teton 661. There's no doubt in my mind that that small SV spool will handle that light of bait. So I throw with it, so the Salamandura may go on this. This may just, I don't know what I'll do with this. If I don't like the Salamander, if it won't hold as much of the, well, I'll probably just end up putting 15 pound. We'll see how much, if it holds enough 15. And I'm guessing it should, because these SV spools hold twice as much braid as you need. That one, I run half the braid, and it's still like you can barely, with the 3/4 ounce rattle trap, I can spool it, but that's like the only bait. And you're getting plenty enough distance in your cast. So I think the smaller SV spool will hold enough, filled completely up, of 15 pound to get all the fishing I wanted to get done. And I know that the drags will be plenty strong enough for how I set my drags. So while we're here and we're talking about this, you got 6 people watching, nobody's commenting. Nobody gonna say hi? Anyway, let's talk about, I talked about the reel test, and you guys watching his video of all the reels he's had. I'm going to tell you a quick rundown of the ones I've had. Man, I'm looking at this. Like, you can kind of tell more easily the tolerances, because that's a red spacer with the black spool, and this thing looks crazy tight tolerances. I'm talking, I don't know if 1 pound monofilament would, I don't think it would go through. I think this is one of the tightest spool tolerances I've ever seen on a reel. Shame I don't like the spools. I think they went too small. 28 millimeters, first of all. I believe if you take the spacers, if they can come out, I think the Salamandura, the Silver Alphas are 30 millimeters, if I'm not mistaken. And that's probably all the smaller you need to go. I think that's what these reels are. I think that is. The Aldebaran, I believe, was 29, wasn't it? But you don't need to go smaller than 30. Ever. And these little 28s. Now this, if it just had more, now I guess I could try to track down if somebody wanted to trade me the red air spool for this. They prefer this over the other one. I guess I could do that. Just swap them out. For the red spool, it'll go all the way to the edges. But the problem, there's a problem with that, because I think, you guys quote me, I think this line guide deal may not be set up for that though, right? If it doesn't reel over far enough. I'm not sure if there's a difference in this. I know a lot of times when you get braid or regular lined reel, if it's designed for braid, this will typically go faster. So it doesn't let the braid, it lays the braid so it don't dig into itself as easily. You can still use either one on either one, but there is a difference if you get one of these reels designed specifically for braid. Typically have a little different spool, maybe a little beefier for whatever reason. I think actually it's the opposite way. I think mono's the line that has more of a chance of, say you reel in something real heavy. Say you just drag a stick in, you're like, oh, I'm caught on a heavy stick, you know, it's so heavy you can barely reel it. And if you spend all that time reeling instead of pulling with your rod and then reeling up lightly, that mono's all stretched out, and then you take it home and you set it somewhere and it sets for a month with all that, you know, pull of the mono wanting to, you know, release some of the pressure. I think that's where you can mess a spool up on these real little BFS ones. Quicker than what braid will. Now, yeah, if you put 15-pound braid on this and you go yanking on something, and you know you're holding the drag and it's cranked as tight as it'll go, and you're pushing as hard as you can with your thumb, then maybe you could damage one with braid that's too heavy for what you should have on it in the first place. But I've never damaged a spool from out fishing it. I've damaged them from trying to get bearings off, from dropping them on the side of a table. And these little thinner ones, man, they barely take a little thunk, and they can get tweaked. Never damage one from out fishing. I've seen one, an SV spool, spin out because I bought, and I think I ended up giving, I think Matt has that reel now without a spool. But what happened there was the guy literally took apart the reel and super glued the brake pads and all of that assembly. So he basically made it a direct drive reel. And I don't know what braid he had on or whatever. I got it used. And when I got the reel, you could put your hand here and it spun. And that's why I got it real cheap. And you couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. Well, when I took out the spool, you could literally hold the pin going through and you could turn the spool on the shaft, which wouldn't have been a problem. I figured out a way to fix it. Problem was when I went to fix it, I got it on not lined up properly when it sealed back up. Killed the spool. But anyway, I took apart that reel. It's pretty simple really to clean I think you just used like a super glue to, once you tear it apart, when you got this thing tightened all the way on that glued, it was a solid direct drive. Once you took it all apart and popped off the pads, because they were carbon pads, and I basically just cleaned it up to where the drag worked again. And it just needed another spool, which you can get cheap spools from AliExpress that fit the, was that a Tatula or was that the, yeah, I think it was a Tatula. All right, anybody else want to talk about anything? We've got 8 people watching now. Nobody wants to talk about anything. What should I do with this reel? I do like that. If you guys remember right, you can go way back to my original alphas. And I want to say when I put the original one, although the reel test did a deal with the trout magnet, and these are like kind of one-trick ponies. I'm sure this reel is probably real close to that. They'll throw crazy down light, the trout magnets, but then once you get up from that, they're so braked, and this one may not be quite as bad, but the fact you got to run such small line, it kind of makes them just in that true ultralight BFS. You can't, in what I call a all-around BFS, it's hard to put these there just for the line capacity, in my opinion. But to this date, I still would swear by it. I haven't tested them head to head, but back when I had the Air and some other good casting BFS reels, I had the LTX BF8 and the ALC BF7. And if you guys remember right, I got a deal from Matt Markley, I believe, on that one. He just bought one, wanted to try it, and didn't like it. Sold to me. I want to say I got it cheap, like 160 bucks, something like that. That is by far a 16th ounce crappie jig. It's back what I was testing then at the time. I don't know what it was about that reel. It blew away what should have been the same casting. The LBF8s should have been the same overall performance as that reel, but it blew it away. It blew the Alphas Air away. It blew I believe I had an Alphas with the Kosugi spool. I put it up again. There's a few other BFS reels, and it just flat out, that 16th ounce crappie jig, with the trail, so it was probably like more like 2 grams. That ALC BF7 just flat out, it just outcast them. It was easier to use, but then when you went from that, to the lighter stuff, then the Alphas Air, not this one, but the Alphas Air, could beat it. But if you went up from that, it still beat everything. At the time, the whole time I owned that reel, it was the best casting BFS reel I had. The downside was to it, just like almost all of these, when you go out and I'm out in the yard test casting, field testing these in a field, not on the water, and I can wait 2 seconds for the wind to die down, then cast, and I don't have to cast directly into the wind typically. You always end up, you kind of just run them like one notch, one little click lighter than when you get out on the water. The first thing that never fails that happens with all these reels, no matter how much I have or haven't used them, I'll get out there casting and I'll get it where I think I like it, and then I'll throw it directly either into the wind or just an extra snap or something that I do harder for whatever reason. You get anxious, and I find myself, I usually always have to go another some reels occasionally you might go have to go 2 clicks tighter to have that hassle-free out there just casting, and you don't have an issue with it overrunning, and it never fails. So, and then just the ease of casting. And a lot of times when you're doing overhead cast, you'll get out there just fishing when you're just whipping it. You know, you'll see me casting this way, up, down. I'll maybe flick one with my left hand or whatever. And that's why you see a lot of guys still talking about, well, I don't understand how, you know, everybody still is big on the Daiwas and the SV spools and this and that. This reel right here is just the most like, and these are the same way when you're into that real small stuff. They just have that ability to a more forgiving casting reel. It's the only way I can explain it. It's that air rotor type system. Just you know, the reel test calls it they're overbraked. They're overbraked. Well, they are and they're not. They may be overbraked for out shooting them up against other reels in a cast test, but when it comes to on the water fishing and pure, you know, they kind of got your back if you get a little too crazy. Now you see me do it. They'll all backlash if you just don't know what you're, you know, if you're not paying attention, a bait caster will backlash on you. But the Abu Garcias were the worst. The ALC BF7, even, you know, as much as it was the best casting reel I owned during the whole time I owned it, it was about as finicky as the LTX BF8. It did not like to go, you know, you get it exactly where you thought it was fine, and then it would let you down. It would just, and it was weird. It was just like something kicked in that reel and said, nope, not this cast, and it would just backlash. And that's one of the reasons why you don't see fishing with any Abu Garcias. A couple other reasons, but that's the main reason. That magnetic system, and what's weird is these reels pretty much have copied that. They're just a Magtrax style on the outside. And I don't know if maybe they're a little more powerful magnets or what, or just you know, because these are typically now smaller spools also, even though you've got the deep spools, they're still, I want to say they were, I think they were 32 millimeters in the Abu Garcia ones. If I'm not mistaken, I can't remember. And these are only 30, so maybe that's the difference. I'm not sure what, but I feel these are more forgiving, you know, these cheaper AliExpress reels over what that Abu Garcias were. They were just, I don't know, they were something else. They would just be fine. Now you've seen me backlash this one, but it's usually I turn, I'm thrown into the wind with a spinner bait. Sometimes a chatterbaits usually don't start that twirling stuff, but a spinner bait or a buzz bait, and whew, oh man. Or I catch the side of something, or I'm just, you know, I just get anxious and I'm totally out of whack on how I cast it, and you know, I kind of do this wrist snap, let go at the wrong time, and you never know when, you know, if you're just not paying enough attention, you can get a backlash. But as you guys have seen me with the braid, I don't think you get occasional braid knot from like if you yank so hard directly at the braid into itself. That's not really part of that's really nothing to do with the reel. That's on the braid, the issue that you can have with braid, so it's not really a real issue. But as far as the taking a bird's nest or backlash out, when I fish with braid, I can maybe think of one time this year that I just couldn't get it out, or it weakened enough, and part of it was, I think it was the line I was using. That other Gekkabijin or whatever, I don't recommend that line. I've yet to have an issue with this line, Proberos, or the old original Hercules that I kind of started with way back in the day. I ended up getting stuff, and I didn't even know the name Hercules. I was either getting no-name braid that was just coming, it was just called 4-strand braid, basically, that didn't even have a name on it, or I was getting some Hercules and maybe a couple other brands in there. Then I just kind of got on a kick there for a while of ordering Hercules. Then it went up in price, and it's still cheaper than you get anything here in the States. Then I caught on to the Proberos, and I still think Proberos and Hercules are coming out of the same exact factory. I thought the Gekkabijin stuff was also, until I got that, if you guys remember, right, that camo color that just came all colored weird, and it definitely seems like it's a little more fragile. It's probably being shipped from France to China and then trying to be sold to us here in the States. But so far anyway, Primero's Angry Fish and Hercules, I could recommend that braid. And when you do get a backlash on a bait casting reel, don't go crazy. And it's basically 50 knots in that reel. And if you pull it tight, you're going to tie one of those knots. So don't pull the line tight. The trick is just to untie those knots before you cinch a knot up in there. And that's how you kind of deal with backlash with braid. Now, if you're fluorocarbon, I hate fluorocarbon because all it takes is to be kinked. You may not even try to pull it tight or something, but if it kinked anywhere during that backlash, you just created a weak point. Fluorocarbon is actually as good and nice as it can be. The minute it gets a kink or bends too far, it just instantly weakens that line. I've had too much of it fail on me where I didn't even realize I kinked it or not after a backlash or something. So you will not see me fishing with fluorocarbon as the main line. Possibly a leader in the future, but I like the P-Line Original, which is kind of a copolymer. Awesome, right? So as I get out of here, I guess I'll wrap it up. Nobody wants to talk tonight. Brew Tank must have went to sleep. Buddy at work did give me this. I don't even know what I'm going to do with it. Charles, comment if you want it. I will repurpose and re-gift it to you for a Christmas present. He's like, here, you want this? Guy at work, I guess he got it in he ordered something and it just kind of came as a free gift to him. And I'm like, first of all, I don't hunt, I just fish, and I don't even really keep the fish. It's got like a scaler. I mean, that's something I could, just throw in the tackle box and use it, can opener, open a Corona, Bud Light, something like that. You never know. When you get thirsty, emergency, you might need to break something like this out. But I thought it was cool he gave me that. Thank you very much, Brad. And it may be getting repurposed as a gift to somebody else, or I'll just throw it in the tackle box. And foreseeable future, I can just see it opening some type of beverage for me to drink. So, without further ado, if nobody's got any questions, I'll try to. I don't know. This weekend's gonna be pretty cold. I'm not gonna do any fishing for sure. I might try to do, if I can get out in enough time, 5 or 10 minutes here and there, cast one, then the other, then the other. I don't know. I might try to do a live stream on it, or I'll just get the GoPro out and actually test them. I think I've got some. It's blue, but I think I have some. Is that Seagar? I think I've got some 6-pound braid. I believe I can get enough on this. And what I'll do is I'll probably just fill this up, and then we'll fill up. And I may not even use this one. I'll use one of these other ones that's still new with the dual handles. But we'll fill this up, see how it casts, fill up one of our dark wolf alters. And all my dark wolf alters are the non-dynamic, the fixed magnets. They don't move. So we'll try one of those, and then I'll get a spool out, and we'll also try the I guess I got a spool somewhere around here, which I think they're about the same. They should be the same. I'll probably just try one of the Solo King shallow spools versus these two, and just give you guys my thoughts. Is this better for, say, a gram and a half over this? And I'm sure some of you guys are curious that maybe have this and it's like, well, I kind of want one of those, but if the shallow spool is going to suck, then I don't really want one with the shallow and the deep spool. I'll just wait or something. I'll give you guys an idea of what that one does. I'm tempted to also, I don't know, if you guys you guys have seen and watched the video, I finally put the links there. If you want to find this shallow, or I want to say it's 3 grams. It sounds insane that they made one that light, but the Aldebaran 22, there's a few spools running around on AliExpress now that are crazy light that fit it for like $65. I shared that link in the last live video, and the link to the parts that maybe let you, I'm not sure, make a boost spool, or it's just a colored part that goes into these boost spools on the few reels that already have them. But check that out if you guys are interested in doing any of that. And comment, I'm going to look, I don't know what and who all makes a spool that, if I wanted to go that far and put a spool in the Gekkabijin that would let me run it. I would have to at least run as much 10 pound as I can get on a Dark Wolf Ultra to even justify even using this reel. Otherwise, I'll just sell it to one of you guys or Charles, or I'll list it on eBay and sell it, and I'll buy a couple more of. Oh wait, I already got 2 of these I'm not even using. I'll buy something else. Until that day comes, we're waiting on the Salamandura and see how I like it. I do like this one. Just definitely, it looks way better than the Air. Silver Creek looked real good. I'd put it right on the same. It looks different, but in the same ballpark as what this Silver Creek looked like. I think I like the Silver Creek a little better. Had the goldish colors with the cork. They're kind of the pressed or the ground up and then stuck together cork knobs, but it was a very good looking reel also. Who knows? I may talk myself into liking these. I may try to talk Charles out of the Silver Creek. I may get an Alpha's Air. Next thing you know, I'll have all these reels. I'll get a silver one. I would have already gotten a silver one back in the day, the SV, if it had this. If it would have had that, I would have got one of those before I bought the Zillion. I'd have never known how good the Zillion was because I was looking at them. There's actually a YouTuber out there. I don't speak the language, but he had this reel and the new Alphas, and he had spools for them. I can't remember which brand spools, but the aftermarket BFS spools. And I was watching his video, and it kind of had me. I was watching him compare them, and I'm like, that reel, because I watched the reel test, and he was almost acting like it was too big, like it palmed bigger. And I was watching that other YouTuber with the both silver reels, the Alphas, SV, and the Zillion. And I'm like, that Zillion looks awful small. And I go, I like the shape better than the Alphas variant. The Alphas just, it's almost two pointed. Everywhere is almost two pointy compared to, I like this shape right here. I almost wish, and I think this reel would have done it more justice to make this more rounded than square, because they went from kind of a round to then they tried to start to square stuff off. And the reel test, he was right in the fact that it has a lot of Shimano-like things, but the one reel that I think he missed, I think it looks more like any Shimano of them all, are the older Metaniums. The Metanium that was basically the same reel as the Chronarch D. It's a smaller version, which I wish they would have made that reel in a smaller version a long time ago, is what I think it, from the backside anyway, the roundness of it, and from a few angles, like a couple of these angles back here, it reminds me more of the older Metanium. They're still on eBay for like $100, but man, they're huge. They palm big. They're awesome reels, but they do palm pretty big. I'm tempted to buy another one of those. I don't know. I like to just fish what I have. I'm not a collector. If I was, I would collect. Oh, you know what? We're already 40 some minutes in. So let's just talk about that real quick. I know nobody even cares, but we're going to talk about it. If I could collect reels, let me just give you guys a quick rundown for some of you. And maybe you guys comment if you'd like to see me put together a video, maybe on my computer. I'll aim this thing, do a live deal, aim it right at my computer, and just start looking up the reels so you guys can put, it's like putting names to the faces kind of deal. You can see the exact reels I'm talking about. Most of you probably already know, but some of you that don't. And I'm not talking just because they're expensive reels. That's probably the ones I would recommend to collect maybe, but last or as you're building your collection. But there's some basic reels that you can go on eBay right now and start collecting some old school, high performing reels. The only real downside to them is if you're like me and you like the small, lightweight palming stuff, it's kind of why you got low profile reels, and the smaller and the lower profile they get and the lighter they get, the more you like it. You won't like it on some of these that you could get to collect, but as far as still performing and awesome for regular bass stuff, there's tons of reels still out there, and you can track them down on eBay, and some of them are there all the time on eBay, and some of them come and go. But if you keep an eye out, and if you guys are familiar with eBay, you can actually put words in there to search for, and then put it to notify you if something pops up like that. You can, there's all kinds of ways to do that on eBay. But I've owned a bunch of reels, like on the reel test, what he done, and he talked about the 2 reels. What's funny, I think he must have started his channel roughly around the time Bass and Bonsai started, because I do remember him doing cast tests and different stuff with the Sonora XF50 and the Habo Steed, because I remember commenting and kind of talking back and forth on maybe on his comments about how, because he did not like the Habo Steed, and out of the 2, I was kind of doing the same thing at the same time, because those were just 2 of the BFS reels you get. It was pretty cheap, right? And in my opinion, that, like he commented in his video, that the Habo Steed looked better, functioned actually, you know, if you looked at the mechanics of it and how it was built, felt better, aluminum frame. But I felt mine cast better. Like I liked it better than XF50. And I felt, yes, it was kind of, but that was at the time I had the Abu Garcias. I think he did too. I think he had an LTX BF8. But I had, you know, I had kind of had some unruly stuff. I had the Kasuji spool, which if you guys don't know anything about that one, it's probably the most unruly spool you can get, or one of the, you know, for BFS for the Daiwas. But man, it is an awesome caster once you get the feel of it. And that's kind of the way some of these are. If you hear, not just the real test, but other guys will talk about how, oh, it's a finicky or it's hard to cast. A lot of times those are the ones, they're like on that edge, you know, like you guys hear the racing term, loose is fast. That's sometimes the case with some of these better casting reels, especially when it's coming from a Daiwa that is notoriously known for being, you know, over braked. If it's what you hear you guys talk about, how it's got a, you know, wild spool or something. But once you can get the hang of casting those, that's some of those you can get the best ease of casting and distance, and they're just good once you get used to them. But I felt the Habo Steed was kind of on that platform. It was, you know, I think it was 16th ounce and then up to a few other ones. And that's just like when this reel first came out, the Black Knight 2, I didn't have an issue with mine. Once I started checking, and I'm like, oh yeah, I see where you could have an issue, because it's definitely weaker brakes. And we got the magnets to fix the dynamic ones, and then these, you don't even need them now for the fixed brakes. But I didn't really myself have an issue with the first generation of these, but it seemed the real test and everybody else did. And I did once I really, I guess, tried to, I don't know, I guess just in me setting maybe the spool tension and just, I guess, being way more advanced casting than I even realized I was, I didn't have an issue with them. But then, you know, we fixed the problem. We got the little magnets and fixed the problem for the guys that still have the ones, like Charles and a few other guys. Well, everybody, because everybody was buying these, right? I just made it simple on myself. I traded Charles for the fixed one, so he'd have all the dynamic brakes, and I'd have the fixed ones. And because I like it, I've been fishing with this since we did the swap, and I don't know how many fish I've caught on it. Not a ton, because I don't throw the shaky head a ton unless I have to. But cast works, everything. I like it. What was I even talking about? Oh, as far as what reels and what you can and can't get and should collect. I'm not going to go into it on tonight about what I've had and what I haven't had, but I've had a bunch. Right? We were country when country wasn't cool. We were fishing. We didn't even know Shimano's really the only ones that started calling it BFS, and everybody kind of jumped onto that. But the Daiwa, the T3 Air was like the first and the coolest and the most awesome reel, right? We saw that. It was like, oh my God, that thing. And it was like 450, 500, 600, whatever it was, crazy priced. And I should buy it, but I'm just going to give you guys this little right here. If you're a right-handed guy, you can jump on eBay right now, punch in Daiwa T3 Air. There's a guy selling them. He's a common seller in Japan. He's got like the picture of 3 different reels with a smoke out, border around it, framed. Shows you 3 different angles of it and then multiple pictures. You guys will know who I'm talking about. But he has on there right now a T3 Air, the 6:8:1. So it's got the gold on the side. It's not the 8:1:1, which was more popular. For whatever reason, all these BFS reels seem to sell better when they're the highest one, the XGs and all that. Typically why I always end up buying the highest geared ratio, because they're easier to sell. But anyway, he's got it on there. I want to say it's only $180. I didn't really look hard to see what scratches it, but if that's a good functioning reel, it is well worth that much money. I was gonna buy it, but if one of you guys want to jump on there, there's 10 of you watching right now. I don't know who will watch it by tomorrow. I'm sure somebody buy it before I make myself buy it tomorrow. Because if I look tomorrow and it's still there, I will probably just buy that reel. Because I always wanted one years for the, just a T3 Air. It like covers what was first, it was a high. If you wanted to go BFS, you had to spend money. And the T3 Air was like one of the first custom looking reels that Daiwa just put out there. It was like, here. And it really is still a very capable BFS reel. The T3s themselves were kind of a love-hate. We had a lot of guys that were loving that reel. I don't know why they didn't ever make a aluminum or a magnesium version of that reel, because that was the only downside. What a lot of guys said was the way a lot of guys were claimed to be anyway having problems with stripping screws out when they take them apart to service them, took them apart, put them back together that often. I think a lot of guys are used to aluminum reels, probably take them apart more than they need to. But if you go to just completely tearing down, putting them back together, plastic reels, a lot of times if you can over tighten the screws, right? You're going metal into plastic, graphite, whatever you call it. It is a possibility to strip the screw head, out. And then if you do that, you've literally almost destroyed the whole frame. Unless you can source one real cheap, you've almost messed the reel up. But I'll be honest, on this reel anyway, any one of these screws could fall out and it shouldn't hurt the performance of the reel. I'd say any one screw. Now 2 come out, you're probably gonna have to get a different reel. But the T3s and the T3 Airs were basically, there never was and there never has been a reel since then that just had the way the hood popped up before they made the T3s, before they made the T-wings to where they popped up and out, and that's what moved. The old school stuff, these were just one way, and the whole hood is what popped up out of the way. If you guys aren't familiar with those, want to go check them out. Because you can still get the T3s and the T3 Airs, you can still buy them on eBay. But this thing, basically, when the hood went down, it forced the line down into that channel. Otherwise, it was up there and it let the line come right out of that little channel, and it had all this wide space. Is what your first, the T-wing system has evolved. And as a reel test, he's one of the first guys that pointed out that over the years, this has gotten smaller. The original ones were definitely, it was a wider reel and they had a wider T-wing. Now the reels have they've kind of discovered you don't need a 34, 36 millimeter spool that is, so crazy wide, and you don't need all that line capacity, right? We're bass fishermen. We're not out, we don't need 300 yards of line on a reel just to, like, well, it might run. Yeah, it might run 10 feet. You can even chase down, like I pulled in big carp and catfish with, heck, I pulled in a huge carp. It's on, I got it on video. One of the kids recorded me with my phone, Noah. 8-pound Power Pro on, I think that was not the Shading X, that was actually the Criff hanger with the Mega Bass Rosa, which is an Alpha's variant, basically. 8-pound Power Pro. Fishing a shaky head, snagged a carp in the tail section of his back and fought him, dragged him all the way up to the bank. I wasn't worried about trying to get him up for a pick because we were trying to go eat breakfast is what we were trying to do. And the kids even commented like, throw in the pole. They were ready to go eat breakfast, and we just went down that morning to, just do a little fishing. And it turned into a crazy adventure that was one of the first Bass and Bonsai videos. All right, guys, I got to get out of here. Comment below if you want to see that video. I don't care if you guys want to see it or not. I'll probably put it out anyway. But I'd like to myself just jump on there and look. kind of for nostalgia reasons, get on there and just see how many old school reels there still are. You guys want to know? I'm going to give it to you because I already got it's already out in one of my videos, the best bait casting reel ever. And the first one that if anybody is thinking about putting together a bait casting reel collection, I don't care if you're Shimano or Daiwa, it should be the Ito 103M, right? TD Ito. You guys know what I'm talking about. The green, basically a zillion. Here in the States, the zillions were aluminum and they felt like tanks, but the TDZs, they were magnesium, air metal, right? But they were magnesium, and the best one of all was right when the guy that is owns and in charge of Megabass was still kind of, let's call it what it was, in cahoots with Daiwa, working for them, and he put out the TD Ito 103M. That is, I still would call it the most iconic, probably the best reel ever made. And I'm going to tell you why it's the best reel ever made. It was the best reel when it was made, and it's the best reel right now because you can take this spool out of this zillion that I've been raving about, and you can slap that spool right in that reel and have the performance of today's stuff, except for the T-Wing, which isn't a huge setback by not having it, and still get out there and fish with anybody doing anything. You could take that the chameleon spool that I have, the gold one that fits in this, you could put that in that TD Ito and throw it on any one of these BFS reels, and trust me, you'll be right there fishing just as functioning as well as any of the other guys, and it's going to be as lightweight. I want to say that reel weighed 5.6 or 5.3 ounces. Palm's big. Palm's bigger than these other reels. Doesn't palm huge, but palm's bigger than what a lot of us are used to nowadays, but still a very, very awesome reel. If I had to name a Shimano that you could compare with it, the only Shimano that comes to mind, the one that I like that I'd put with it just because it's green, and I'm thinking about getting one because I watched the reel test. He has one, and he put it in his thing. He compared it with his first, the Aldebaran reels, the older ones, but the Corrado 50E. That is worth getting one of those. Now they make a 200 E5 and E7, which is a wider, basically the same overall, but a wider reel. I'd say one of those would probably be worth collecting also. But the one that is probably even over that is a Chronarch D. You guys know what I'm talking about? You can get the Metanium that I think this reel looks a lot like. But the Metanium was a magnesium frame. For whatever reason, the Corrado D, it's aluminum frame, but that cool white paint job with a little bit of gold, that was just an awesome reel. It performed and it looked, and that would be, in my opinion, of all the Shimanos that have ever been made, not the Antares and not the, whatevers, but that Chronarch D, because they still sell for crazy money. If you get one shows up on eBay that is either light scuffs or hardly none, it's going to go for like 300, 350 bucks, and it's going to go quick. The TDOs still go for the a real good one that you can't see, or any of those you get new in box, they're probably going for 500 or better of either of those two. But kind of one of the first, I guess, workhorse reels. You basically had, I think Daiwa really, when they finally came out with the Zillion, but before the Zillion, Shimano had their Corrado, the old Jerry Dishner, my buddy Jerry Dishner showed up with one the day I went fishing with him, just pulled it out. It still looks like brand new. And if you guys know Jerry, you'd understand he uses older stuff, RC stuff and fishing stuff. But the older, I don't remember what generation those were. I believe they were plastic reels. I'm not 100% sure. But the older, old, big Corrados were awesome workhorse reels. And then that's kind of what, that first green reel, in my opinion, what got the Corrado name going. And it's gone through good years. It had the E's, which were awesome reels. But then they went through the, I think they went from an E to the G, maybe. And the Corrado G, I think the Corrado G was supposed to be, I heard a lot of guys talk about it's a good reel, but it just didn't go good. The same way with Chronarchs. They went to the E, which is basically, it was just a Corrado with a few changes, and a lot of guys were butthurt about that, right? Butt puckering, right? But then the Chronarchs, if you guys notice, they just don't, they're not as talked about as much as the Aldebarans or now the Metaniums or the Bantams, right? The Chronarchs just kind of, it's out there. A lot of guys still use it, but it's just not one of those. It's definitely not like in a collector's mind on almost any of those generations of the Chronarchs. The ones that are still collectible, in my opinion, are the 50E white one, just like the Corrado 50E green, and then the Chronarch D, I think, is over all those as far as Shimano goes. But Daiwa, hands down, in my opinion. Yeah, Matt Burns just commented, his green Corrado E was bulletproof. Yeah, I never forget when they first come out. I remember watching, it was Larry Dahlberg was out fishing when they first come out. He was off somewhere, exotic place, fishing and using them. And they were like one of the first also. That 50 size was just like nobody at the time, like it was just small. Like the Alphas. Now here, and that was one of the differences, like the Aldebaran is basically what the Corrado E was. The Corrado E, the Chronarch E, were just basically aluminum versions of the Aldebarans over there. The Scorpion was an aluminum version, and basically the Scorpion and the, for years, and then that way, the Scorpion in Japan and the Corrado here are basically the same reel, different paint jobs. Maybe a few different design, things here and there bearing something a little different. But that little reel, there's just not a lot that compared to it, other than Daiwa had their Alphas, but the Pixie never really made it here except for the PXR kind of thing that it was like crazy price, $500. But they did have the Daiwa Soul, and I don't know who named that. I don't even know what that's supposed to stand for, but it was I think they were orange. But it was basically an Alphas that they, when they brought it here, they changed the name to Sol, S-O-L. And I guess those were pretty good reels, but they definitely didn't get the, I don't know, they're not as abundant as finding them or whatever. Maybe they're worth more money now for that reason, I don't know. But in my opinion anyway, they weren't probably as good. And then they also came out with the core. The cores were basically they had a big one and a little one. The small core was the 50. There was a bunch of reels based on that 50 E platform, which is basically the Aldebaran platform that ran for a long time until that 2016 model came out. And then kind of the same way for the Daiwa. If you've noticed that they had the Zillions, right? And then they had the TDZs. Now, once Stees came about, the TDZs kind of went away, which were basically the magnesium versions of the Zillions, and then Zillion just took on its whole form, and then they brought out Tutulas and all this and that. But back then, it was kind of your companies kind of had magnesium versions, and then they had aluminum, same frames, and your higher, you spent more money, and your higher end ones were the magnesiums, and then the more workhorse were the aluminum ones. And then they've kind of changed that up. Uh-oh, hang on, somebody asked me a serious question, and now I can't. What just happened? Did you guys do that? I'm trying to scroll. Put user in timeout. I just want to go back. Hang on. I'm trying to figure this out. My phone's doing weird stuff. I'm gonna leave you guys right there. You can get a close-up look at those reels. Okay, so hang on. Let me try to answer this question Martin just asked me. Oh my God. Said he just recently got into BFS. Used to throw big baits exclusively. I purchased 3 of these setups past week. First is with a mega bass. Oh my God. I cannot get this phone to work right. He's asking me something about bearings. I can't get. I'm back. Hang on. Oh my God. Something happened to my. Oh my God, something happened to my phone. All right, hang on. So he purchased I guess three setups past week. First is a Gekkabijin with a Megabass Triza. You should have good with that one. The Clamber with the Creek Dance. I'm not sure what the Creek Dance is. Third is the Black Knight with the Teton Ultralight. Black Knight 2. Well, I'm just going to do, yes, you'll benefit, but I'll just give you my opinion on bearing upgrades. I've done them in the past. If you don't mind sound, the noise, hybrid micro ceramic bearings definitely will aid in the performance, but I find ceramic bearings get on my nerves. So I would say if you want to look for micro bearings, and you can get them on various places, Hedgehog Studios, probably the quickest, simplest way, but then they're expensive. You can find them on AliExpress. But in my opinion, the Black Knight 2 probably comes with cheaper, but it comes with ceramic bearings. The Dark Wolf Ultra doesn't. I like the smoothest. I just like the regular bearing, those ceramics. Now I do like micro bearings. Like the Shimano has a touch of a more of a micro sized. So would you benefit from it? Yes, but for the cost and the money, are you going to see that much performance on the water? Honestly, unless you're out throwing 1.5, 1 gram, 2 gram baits consistently all the time, and that is about it, then I could guess it could justify for me and the way I fish. I can't justify buying any more upgraded bearings. Now, if one of these starts making a noise and I need to get new bearings, would I be better off to, instead of trying to get the stock bearings? Yes, I would be better off to go get a set of bearings. Roro, just the different brands, whether it be on AliExpress, wherever. But yes, I would not recommend, other than that new Shimano Aldebaran 22, if you can find out what brand of bearings those are and duplicate those, because those are some awesome bearings. But before, I would probably just replace. Now, these bearings are pretty good on these reels, but I think you would benefit on the spool bearings to look for, this is just my opinion, micro spool bearings over ceramics. If you don't mind noise, then ceramic, the works. Get the best you can get, which would be hybrid ceramic micro bearings. They're going to be basically the inner and outer, I believe, is stainless, and then the bearings themselves are ceramic, is what the hybrid part is, because they're dual. And then you want the micro, to where they basically put in a bigger aluminum housing, so they put a smaller bearing in there, then that's what goes into the reel, basically. And then the same size on the spool shaft. But yeah, I would try to get that. And honestly, I'm not even sure what this, I think this reel already comes with. Let me just take it apart since I got the reel right here. Yeah, I think this one already comes with a pretty good small bearings. I don't know if I would worry about, I guess what I would do if I were you, before you worry about that, is maybe just, get them out, put them on the water, put them to the test, and just see what you think. I do it. It's kind of cool, to make video. Gives me more content in order to put videos out there for you guys. We'll order this set and that set, and you guys see me use different ones. And I've got a set of some of the red Roros around here that go to, I forget what reel. And that's also just like this. A big talk about deal on Daiwa is, and I'm trying to remember right here, if you guys can see that. I'm trying to remember which one of these I switched. If you guys remember right, I bought these reels. I bought one. I'm like, man, it's so good. I bought another one. And for whatever reason, the second one just, it's good. But there's just something about that original one I bought. I'm trying to see which one's the original one I bought. I think it's this one. One of them's got a little nick I put in it, just a barely, you can, right here. That's got the slight, you got to really look. But if you really look, it's got a slightest little nick right there. And that's the only way I can remember from which one's which. Now I'm trying to remember which one's which. The one with the nick is the older one, right? I think. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make on bearings, the first one, I believe it's that one, was the best one. It just was, there was something extra about just the smoothness of everything. It felt better. So I left it alone, but then I had bearings already. So this reel comes with, you have the ability to change them, but it comes with bushing here and here on the, for your worm gear, right? For the line guide. So I changed it on the second one I got. I took the 2 bushings out and put 2 bearings. And it definitely, like I felt like I could feel a difference. And here's the thing now. I honestly can't feel a difference now between either reel. So I haven't taken this one apart. I think it's, oh boy, I think it's this one. I haven't taken this one apart to see, maybe some reason they already had, somebody had put bearings in there, even though I bought it new. Maybe it was a fluke at the factory, or they just, the tolerances, or I used it just enough that part broke in faster. But I don't see a need to take it apart because I can't feel a difference. At some point I might, if I just tear to it for whatever reason later on in the future, and then I'll just slap a couple bearings in it when I get it apart. But there's no need to take that apart. I don't like the fact on Shimano's, a lot of them, they go with that plastic worm gear and they claim it doesn't affect it. I can swear I can feel that in the reels that have that. The Aldebaran is definitely not as a free a reel as the older Aldebaran. The spool part is. Spool part blows away the new one, or the new one blows away the old one. The older reel had its own issues, just a touch, but was a better, smoother than the new Aldebaran. This right here, and this right here, this reel, have a freer feel than the Aldebaran. The Calcutta Conquest, that sucker is the freest reel I've ever felt. The next freest reel I've ever felt is actually the other Montanium I had, the 2016, I believe, the all crazy bright silver one. That reel was crazy smooth. I loved how it felt. The next smoothest reel I've had or felt are either these two, or there's an older Zillion, the older generation before this one, up at Rogers. Oh my God, that reel feels so smooth compared to all the other reels up at Rogers. Now I haven't put one of mine up against it, but the other, they have a Zillion up at Rogers, but I believe it's got it should be smoother than these, but it's got brass gears, I think. But it didn't feel as smooth as that older generation of Zillion up there. The Bantam palmed, felt better than the Montanium, than even this Zillion. The Bantams, man, they palm beautifully, but man, they're heavy tanks, and it didn't feel as smooth as the Daiwa reels. So I think you got to get into the real high-end Daiwa. Maybe the Antares, definitely the Calcutta Conquest that have them crazy cut gears or whatever, but I feel that the Montaniums and the Bantams are not probably even on the same par as this new, the hyperdrive system or whatever they call it, in my opinion. They're either dead even, or just could be my bias that I'm feeling these are better. They're definitely not any better than these. I feel these are probably better. They're definitely, I feel better once you add those couple bearings, but you guys could argue that the Shimano's would, Shimano's probably have less bearings anyway. They generally do. That's one thing I do like about this reel. I didn't really talk about it when I first got out of the box, but it's crazy free. It's definitely, if you guys remember right, that Aldebaran, I just traded the BrewTank when he put a single handle on it. I could put it like that, and it like wouldn't drop. It would drop real slow. It has resistance, and you can feel it. It's not horrible by any means. It's not like, oh my God, it's dragging. It's just there's a resistance there. I cannot feel it. This reel here, this reel feels probably, well, it's hyperdrive too, but it's a 8.5. So they're the same gear ratio. You're gonna say, but I swear, if anything, this feels even freer than my Zillions. If I had to call it, it feels just a touch. It's probably because these have line and that's a little bit of dragging I'm feeling or something. Or these are already set and maybe this one's set a little freer. But I'd almost swear it's a touch freer than my Zillions. It's definitely free. This, but I'll tell you what, this reel right here, these are no joke. These are built good. They are definitely, that's got that crazy clicking. I wish I could get that quiet and I'd show you guys if we could hear the sound. Like, I can't feel any gears working together, if that makes sense. I've used this one as it's broken in. This reel, I love this reel. I love all the Auroras, but for whatever reason, I don't love the 8-to-1 as well as I do the 7-to-1s. I just need to get it out and use it more. All right, guys, I got to get out of here. Wow, this the longest video ever? Hour and 16 minutes. I got to get to sleep. I got to get up at 4:30 in the morning, and it is, what time is it right now here? Let's check my local time. It's 10:30. That's nothing. I've been up. The latest I will stay up is the midnight. If I'm up at midnight and I got to get up at 4:30 or 4:45 in the morning, I might as well jump in, grab a couple mean beans, and just call it a nighter, really. But I'm going to call it a night for sure tonight. Let's just assume before I call it a night. And they are, you can put these on if you guys seen those, but I don't like those as well. What I found another place that you can get, if you want to change out these zero adjusters. I found, I want to say, is it black, red, and gold ones. Different design, and these are almost too flat, too big looking. They work and they're good on the Zillion, but I think for a reel like this. So if I kept this reel, and you guys comment what you think, what would this reel look better with? If I could track down an alpha spool that was red, would this reel look good with a red drag star? A red here? That's too much, right? In my opinion, it's too much. Wouldn't it look better if I put a gold drag star, or would a red drag star look good, and then a gold piece here? You guys comment, what would you do? Like you've heard Eugene, if you guys read the comments in the last video, Eugene's talking about he's got one. I think he put red drag stars and red knobs. Because I have seen a few reels, if you guys, I can't remember what YouTuber, but he started putting reviews on the, what reel? Dang it. Oh, I can't remember the name of the rod. The rod I didn't like, I thought was too whippy. But he put out some reviews on AliExpress, and he put pictures of his Alphas, Air, and he totally decked out red on the side. So like, imagine everything you can unbolt and put on, he had switched out to red, like aluminum. And it actually, the Alphas look pretty cool, but it's kind of a drab, that gray color. But I have it in my head that this thing would look good with a gold spool, the adjustment spool tension knob gold, and then let's say if I could source a Salamandura spool and take out those shims, put that in there. I think it would look as good, if not better, than Salamandura reel, just because it's that cool, it's gloss black with some of the red instead of a whole red reel. And I think it would actually go real good with that other reel as far as on your combos, right? Going away from the gold and white, right? The light and the dark, right? Jesus, Satan, right? Satan, no. I do admit that I like, if I've got a black reel, I like red stuff on it. these reels out there like the SLX and all them, if you give me a black reel and it starts putting blue highlight, I don't like that. I like even the dark blue or the more baby blue on a silver white reel or something like that. Gold kind of goes with all of it, right? I think it could go either way with the gold, but like red. Now, I had the Aldebaran, not the Aldebaran. I had the Metanium. If you guys remember, it had all the KTF red stuff on it. That reel looked good though with all the red. But I'm just not a fan of, I guess it's the blue, and definitely not the light blue on black, but even the dark blue on black, I'm not a huge fan of that going like what the SLX is, that whatever that cheap funky reel the Reel Test had, that reel looked like a copy of a Abu Garcia reel to me. Gloss black with that blue. The colors are all like good colors, but I don't think they went good together in my opinion. Anyway, I got to get out of here. I'm just rambling on. I'm just trying to find an excuse to go drink a mean bean. I ain't gonna do it. Yeah, Matt says 4:30 comes pretty quickly. Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's what Matt Martin commented about gold. And I mean, I've got one sitting right here. I could just slap it on. I could just slap it on right now. Really? Couldn't I? Oh my God. Thanks a lot, Martin. Somebody go get my mean bean out of the cooler. I got one. Keep one in the cooler. I don't keep alcohol in the cooler. I've been known to keep a bottle of Fireball in the freezer. But I keep Diet Coke in the cooler. And I just so happen to have a mean bean from the last time we went fishing. So real quick, we're just going to see what it would look like, at least with just that switched. And then I'm out of here, seriously. Seriously, I'm out of here after that. I like that handle. So you guys know it's got the little poppity thing. You need this. And these are the two pieces you got to track down if you want to switch out one of these and you don't have. You got to have that little square. And I need to find, if you guys know where we can source that or know how to get a hold of Trey Harple and see how much, because cheapest I can find it, you got to pay almost $6 or $7 for two of these and $10 or $11 for one of those. But you need those two pieces, and then you need this style of clicker. And those I can get for like a couple bucks. You can buy like 6 of them for $6.50 or something or whatever. But you need those in order to switch over to this, if like on these reels. That's what I had to do with these. But anyway, let's just switch this over. It's really that simple. You just pop that on, and we'll just stick with this. I don't think I have an aftermarket handle readily available all rigged up. We'll stick with the stock handle just so some of you guys wanted to know that would want to keep the stock handle. But I think the handle would be better carbon fiber handle, in my opinion. Because it is black. I think you would want to go with the carbon fiber. And you can order these in different colors if you wanted. You could order a gold one of these or a red one of these, and then put a gold one of these on. Play with the colors. Let's put this back on real quick. I'm gonna leave it on tonight, but that's not a permanent deal. Just putting it on to see what she looked like, because I do plan on putting this one on the Salamandura, because I think it has too much. I guess the Salamandura comes with the red one, right? I could take, because that's too much red, so I could actually take that one and just stick it on here and see what I thought when it comes in. It's coming from AliExpress, so we'll be fishing next spring when it makes it. Now it's showing January 2nd. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think it needs more gold. If you're gonna, I think one piece of gold does not do it. I wish it had. I wish that was gold. I wish Daiwa would have kept that gold on all their reels, no matter what color they are. I like the fact that when the first T-wings were coming out, just something about it, just, I don't know. I like the gold on that. I'll be honest, that is not speaking to me right off the bat. I thought I would like it more than I do. I think though, if this was gold, and then maybe some other piece, you can't really add hardly any other gold. That's one downside. One thing that made the older reels cool, like these reels, you can get aluminum screws of different colors, and the ones that were exposed a little more, it just kind of give it a cool factor. None of your newer reels, you can't even see the screws, which is, I guess, good in a sense, but as far as hopping it up or making it look cooler, can't do a simple screw kit to it, right? I don't know. I almost think it would be better with the red one. Just even more red. But the plan is put this one on the Salamandura, and I think it does come with the red one, so we'll stick it on here when that reel comes, just to see what we. All right, I'm out of here for sure. Now this, I don't know if a BrewTank messed with it, but it definitely is no side-to-side play and seems to spin real free. But I adjust those. The zero adjuster is one of the biggest farces I think I've ever heard of. Yes, it can be left alone, but there's just too many options. Like this one feels good. But I'll be honest, I do not like any slop in mine. If it's got any don't, I take that out. I will tighten that up, and how I do it, you guys have seen the deal. Either 1 gram trout magnet on my BFS reels, or at least a 1/16 ounce crappie jig on my regular reels, until it just drops kind of free, but when it hits the ground, it maybe only lets it unspool one little turn. So it's got just the slightest touch of resistance. I don't like a completely free wild spool. Now, if you get out there and you just feel like it's, like, oh, it just needs a little more distance. But like if you free up here, you go from like say 4 to 3, and then it wants to fluff up, but you go to 4, it's like, oh, that's good, but it needs a little more. Then maybe you could, check it, and if it feels like it's dropping like with a little too much resistance, then I might go just a little looser, just a touch. That's just like a little fine tuning type deal. You should never just rely on whoever messed with these. They didn't do any new design. All they did was put something that's harder to hit or mess with to adjust. It's still a thing that puts tension or takes away tension from the spool shaft. No new design to call it, zero adjuster. It's the same thing we've dealt with for years, so there's no reason why you can just assume that the guy in the Daiwa factory went and got it exactly perfect for you every time that they shipped one of these out, any Daiwa reels with the zero adjuster. It's ridiculous. And then if you take a different spool, you're going to have to adjust anyway, because not all spool shafts are identical. And you may have to tweak on it. And there's just a simple fact, if you're out fishing in 32-degree temps compared to 85-degree temps, that can change. Heat, cold, metal, you may like click the button and you're throwing a 1.5 gram bait and it just goes, slows way down maybe, and say if it's super cold or hot, I forget which way it would go, but to where you may need to adjust. It's just ridiculous to say that you're never going to have to turn that. That's ridiculous. And I think these are plastic. So they sell the aluminum ones red, gold, or black or something. If you want to just get a black one to stay in the same color deals, but I think red. I think a red everything. I think this reel, carbon fiber handle, red other accent aluminum pieces, as many as you can get that will fit on this. I think they may make that now in colors if I'm not mistaken. You're going to spend money, but you already spent $300 or whatever you spend on this Gekkabijin. So if your money's not an option, I think it would look cool decked out in red. The gold, I'm just not digging it right now. I may have to I think I got one of these floating around just to stick a gold one on and see what I think. I don't know. I'm going to bed. Stay tuned, guys. A lot more coming. Oh, Martin says he likes it. Yeah, if you know, deck it out in gold, this, and then if you could come across the gold spool, then yeah, I agree. I would like the option of, I don't know, Daiwa was never going to do it, but it would be cool. And then once aftermarket companies do it, especially on Daiwa reels, unless AliExpress, somebody might do it, you know, give you the option to get this in gold, that in gold, this in gold. Then you could play around with how much gold and how much red to add to certain reels or other colors, you know, also. But that's the only positive. But 13 Fishing went about it the wrong way, in my opinion, or they started good with good intentions and it just kind of petered out. But they had their custom shop. You could go in there and get different stuff for their reels. And I think you still can maybe, and a lot of them fit some of their different variants of their reels over the years. They got I think the custom shop's still going in it. I have no idea for sure, but it was a good thought and idea the way you could go in there and order, you know, a handle and a star and a spool that all matched, and it just lets you, you know, customize your reel. It's pretty good. Dude, what shop for customization on AliExpress? You just got to like get AliExpress is crazy. You got to get in there and start searching. I tried to find on my computer. It's on my phone, and that's how I linked it. But I couldn't find the Daiwa Boost spring spool thing. But you can get on there either DIY shallow spool. That'll take you to different places. You can look up stream angler parts. That will bring you up some stuff. But the trick is really once you start finding some DIY like spools, or you might find little knobs or colored aluminum pieces, or these little, you'll find little, the nut and the retainer in different colors. You got to click on those, and then you just got to scroll down. Then it'll say more to love, and you can look through that, and that just gives you the stuff. And the next thing you know, you're like going down these rabbit holes, and it'll take you to all these other different handles and parts and just different stuff that, you know, AliExpress is loaded with all these different things from, you know, that's where these handles came from. That's where these cork handles, I'm going to say these are $6.50 or $7 for one. These are $9 or $10 for a pair. I like the shape of these. I wish the cork came identical to this, and I've shaved these down even some above and beyond, because the original corks, this is a different type press cork, but they almost come more bulbous and just not as comfortable. They look cooler, but they're not as comfortable feeling as like what these are, or like when I shave these down a little bit on my own. There's tons of stuff on AliExpress. It's insane. And I can't like share. There's just so many different stores and links and brands. Fan, Kawa, like you just start looking at handles and knobs and stuff. The one thing I will tell you that almost everything you come across is going to be, and they may give you an option. You know, the smaller size is for Shimano. The bigger size fits almost everything I've seen on AliExpress, every Daiwa, every Abu Garcia. Shimano is the lone soldier that just will not make their reels with that bigger opening for the handle to fit on, right? These are 8x5, I believe, is the shape cut out, the measurements, and it's 7x4, I think, for Shimano. But what they do is they give you, most places will just give the bigger one, and then they've got a little spacer. I've got several, and you can get just the spacers to where if you have a Shimano. But occasionally you'll get one that if they ask you, you know, what's Shimano, Daiwa, they will have both, and it'll have a smaller one. I don't recommend them, because then that is all that's good for is the Shimano one. And I believe somebody that I sold a Shimano reel to not too long ago, must be Charles, he got one that is a Shimano only handle. And that's like BrewTank. He commented about how good that knob is, the bearings on it, because it's Abu Garcia. It came off my MG Extreme 2. But so far, all the handles and all the knobs I've seen and got, and I'll show you right here some of the parts, wherever they're at. because I've dismantled some over. There's an old lychee style knob right there. But you can see all the different guts and parts and casings. Almost all of them from AliExpress. Well, all of them will fit, but almost all of them have the same kind of deal. You're going to get the handles that are big and either come with a spacer stud that will fit a Shimano. And then you're going to get usually like this, to where they're going to have 2 bearings and some spacers maybe, then a bearing here. And then when you get these handles, they're going to be the same way. They're going to come with like the ability to have 2 bearings. And what that's for is the Shimano Daiwa. If you guys don't know, Shimano and Daiwa, the only difference is Shimano's come out further with this little lip before one of their bearings goes on, and then a bearing here, to where you can take, if you have a Shimano handle and a Daiwa, say a Daiwa reel knob, you can put it on, but you have to leave a bearing. There's like no way to put a bearing on. But all of these knobs come with the where you put, if you're going on a Daiwa, you'll put 2 bearings, then a bearing out here, and then you might have to put a little shim here, and it fits on Daiwa. If you were going on a Shimano, you would just put 1 bearing, maybe a shim, maybe not. You just check that, and then a bearing out here. And so far, on all of them I found, they're pretty much Daiwa, aftermarket handles is what they really fit, to where you can put almost every aftermarket handle on those. But if you had a true, like if you were wanting to put, let me see what I'm trying to say here, because I've ran into a few problems. There's a few times that a few things won't interchange, but for the most part, if you buy a whole handle assembly, it'll almost fit on all of them. If you buy certain knobs, you may have to make a couple different of your own shims. I've ran into that problem once. And all I basically did was I took, if you guys know I make single lifestyle, I took the other side that I cut off and I saved those, and I cut little bitty, I just basically cut as thin as I can, and it kind of, I've made myself a little washer to basically extend this longer on the one I need to put it on, if that makes sense. But for the most part, if you have an Abu Garcia reel and you want to mess with aftermarket handles, or knobs, I would first of all recommend just tracking down aftermarket handle, getting it, because it will probably accept all the knobs you can get from AliExpress. If you try to, I've yet to find one that is a direct replacement from Abu Garcia. Same thing for Luz, because Luz and Abu Garcia interchange, right? So if you have a Luz reel, Abu Garcia reel, I recommend getting a handle. Whether you like the knobs that come on that handle or not, track down a handle, and then you can, almost every other knob, when you come across a knob or set of knobs that you want to use, they will fit on that handle that you've tracked down from AliExpress. I've yet to find a set of knobs that say that they will fit on an Abu Garcia or Luz reel handle. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Jesus criminy, I was going for a record. Martin says he spends way too much time on Ali. Yeah, me too. I spend as much time or more on AliExpress than I do doing live streams. I just said doo-doo. I gotta go. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned. A lot more coming. Not tonight, though.